In today's video, we have the featured Community Day Pokemon of Chesnaught with its Community Day move of Frenzy Plant, the charge move that is featured on all of the starter grass Pokemon that have had Community Days that run similarly stat-wise to the water charge move of Hydro Cannon on the water starters and the fire charge move of Blast Burn on the fire starters, meaning we're moving into Gen 6. You can be expecting Greninja and Delphox to be receiving Community Days in future months soon, but in today's video we've got the feature of Chestnaught. Shout out to Smudgy for submitting some battles from across the pond all the way in Australia with a team comp of Metagross in the lead, Chestnaught and Dragonite in the back, being double weak to Fairy, but having that Fairy weakness covered very well with a Metagross lead. Now with Chestnaught receiving the charge move of Frenzy Plant to replace the grass charge move of Energy Ball that it had before, Frenzy Plant is going to lose the debuff potential, but is going to be cheaper energy wise and hit harder than Energy Ball would, giving it some better neutral play throughout this Master League Premier Classic meta against the likes of Gyarados, which is a matchup it will win, and then against the likes of Florges, which is a matchup it'll lose, but again, that extra grass damage will be helpful. Plus, Chestnaught already has the charge move of Superpower that allows it to hit the steel types like Magnezone, like Excadrill for some heavy super effective damage, and also normal types of Snorlax. So honestly, Chestnaught with Frenzy Plant might have a lot of legitimate play in the Master League Premier Classic meta, and I'm really feeling like it'll have some good secondary meta play in Great League and maybe some spice play in Ultra League if you decide to go with Smackdown as a fast move, just because of the fact that there's so many Fire Flyers these days thanks to the Charizard getting Wing Attack and Talonflame just continuing to reign supreme up in the Ultra League CP range. But I think this is a great upgrade for Chestnaught. I look forward to testing it through all the leagues. I'm excited that we at least have some Go Battle League battles here for you today in the Master League Premier Classic meta. We're going to jump into them. We're going to commentate them. It's been a bit since I've been putting out videos. This is not the rate that I want to get it out in, but at the end of the day, I keep on saying things, and I'm just aiming to be consistent in 2023, so hopefully I'll be able to come around with it along with, managing the streaming and my IRL job and other things I'm working on. But regardless, you're not here to hear that ramble. You're here for the Chestnaught content, so please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into the commentating. We've got a Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant, that's a new Community Day charge move, not Energy Ball. That we're not running that on Chestnaught anymore, Battle Build. Get it together. But we landed a nice Frenzy Plant on the Gyarados there. A Dragonite coming in, gonna throw some back-to-back superpowers for some singular resisted damage. Instead of throwing Frenzy Plant, that would be double resisted because of Dragonite's Dragon Flying typing. But you know what? Both those moves did about half of Dragonite's health. Smudgy then swaps into his Dragonite to play the Mirror, takes a Dragon Claw to the face, attempting to go for a Dragon Breath down, has a little bit more health. The opponent then swaps, recognizing they're gonna get farmed down into their own Metagross. He's going for a superpower on his Dragonite. This is a double superpower team, completely unintent, well, not really the intent, I would assume, based on how the team comp was built, but it is there. Gonna come in with his own Metagross, attempting to go for the Bullet Punch farm down. The opposing Metagross gets to a charge move, ends up being an Earthquake, gets the Bullet Punch farm down. The opponent's Dragonite comes in, gonna go for another Bullet Punch farm down with their one shield, and that's GG's to that opponent. Getting into the next match, we got Metagross on a Gengar lead. This is not a great lead for Metagross, but also the back line of Chestnaught is not going to do so fantastic against it either. Smudgy did not want to go into his hard counter, so he swaps into Chestnaught. Has to potentially worry about Sludge Bomb. Are we running Sludge Bomb on Gengar here? No, we got to be running Shadow Punch for baiting, and then Shadow Ball for the Metagrosses and heavy neutral stab damage. So at this point, unfortunately, Chestnaught gets baited. Another charge move coming through. Going to be another Shadow Punch, so thankfully calling the bait there. Going for the single resisted Frenzy Plant. Unfortunately, CMPs loses CMP. Only another Shadow Punch, though. Apparently, maybe the other move is Focus Blast for all the Snorlaxes are in this meta. But either way, the Chestnaught gets off the Frenzy Plant and is essentially able to win alignment with Chestnaught against Gengar there. Unfortunately, an Obstagoon comes in and counters down. What is this? The Metagross is not finding any play here. Doesn't want to see the Gengar. Doesn't want to see the Obstagoon. Maybe because it will out CP the Obstagoon, it might not mind that as much. But regardless, the safe play was definitely come into Dragonite against the Obstagoon. They then have their last mom being a Snorlax. Smudgy throws a superpower, gets a good chunk of the Snorlax's remaining health. Gonna go for another charge move soon. The opponent does have a shield, so I guess they were trying to call a bait. Smudgy throwing the Dragon Claw, even though he is debuffed. He's gonna be able to get off this move, take out the Snorlax's remaining health with a smidgen more Dragon Breath. The opponent didn't shield because they saw the Obstagoon alive. That's why I'm like, why are they not protecting their Snorlax? Builds up to a superpower, throws a Dragon Claw bait. Opponent is trying to go for a counter down. Smudgy's going to get to another Dragon Claw, all while the Dragonite is still single debuff from the first superpower that was thrown and is able to essentially still sweep the Snorlax and Obstagoon line. GG's to that opponent. Into the next one, we got a Metagross on a Dragonite lead, and then Chesnaught to match the Excadrill swap, and the opponent top lefts, and the match is over. If you're sick of seeing pesky Excadrills everywhere, because it is a great Pokemon to use in Master League Premier Classic and core breaks a lot of things, Chesnaught is here to be literally Excadrill's hardest counter, because Chesnaught can hit it for either good neutral damage and not debuff itself, or big super effective damage with superpower, and then resist all of its moves. Resist all the ground moves, all the rock moves. Chesnaught, if you're running into a bunch of Excadrills, highly recommend newly improved Chesnaught in these Master League Premier Classic battles. On top of the fact that Chesnaught's literally ranked 12th on PV Poke, so it's going to have some legitimate play as we've seen so far throughout some of these battles. Now we got a Metagross on a Togekiss situation here, going for a full farm down of the Togekiss. Chandelure coming in. The Metagross has a bunch of energy. Is Smudgy going to be able to play himself out of this poor situation? Going for another Bullet Punch here to at least just get some damage off. Maybe worried about the Chandelure throwing some energy or going for an Incinerate farm down. Gets the last shield. Opponent swaps would have been able to Incinerate down. They were worried that they were going to end up eating another Meteor Mash, but Smudgy's able to throw a Meteor Mash here, come in with his Chestnaught. Is he going to be able to play the energy properly? Wants to go for double Frenzy Plants here. Can't shield anything from the Snorlax. Has to worry about the Chandelure's fire damage in the back. Another charge move coming through. Problem is now with this Body Slam coming through, Chestnaught is a little bit low and is not going to take kindly to the Incinerates that the Chandelure is going to be able to throw, regardless of the fact that he still has a shield. The Chandelure comes in, throws a charge move, gonna shield. They CMP. Will Frenzy Plant be enough damage on the Chandelure to take out and potentially overcome this poor situation? No, the Chandelure just barely holds on. The Incinerates go through. Smudgy catches the next charge move on his Metagross, going to come back in with the Chestnaught and then falls at the superpower. Wait, which is crazy though, because you should be able to get in 2 Vine Whips there and get off the superpower, right? Because 2-turn moves. Incinerate, does it register on the 4th turn? I don't know. I've definitely seen in the past. Oh, the damage registers early. That's what it was. Yes, never mind. So that's what happened there, and unfortunately, the Chestnaught went down. Technically, if the Chestnaught wouldn't have died there, then it would have been able to get off the superpower. But before the next Incinerate. But regardless, getting into the next match, catches a superpower on their Dragonite, and the opponent seems to have just given up. They just let their Dragonite get completely Dragon Breath down, but I guess they didn't like their situation, so they're like, you know what, let's sack our Dragonite, not do too much damage, so we can come in with our Togekiss to get some additional farm, because Smudgy still has the Metagross in the back waiting for it. So Lord out the Fairy, great play there. Metagross coming in, opponent swaps immediately into Snorlax. It's gonna want to throw a Meteor Mash here and then go into his Chestnaught. Absolutely gonna build up to a bunch of energy. Could throw superpower, could comfortably just go Frenzy Plant. All depends on if Smudgy wants to debuff his Chestnaught or not, but Chestnaught is sitting in a good spot here, can tank a couple body slams, which is great, generating a bunch of energy. The only problem is that the Chestnaught is not going to be able to use a lot of this energy against the Togekiss. Now, even though Frenzy Plant would have been more than superpower, that might have been the play, just so we could throw the single resistive Frenzy Plants without being debuffed. So, because we would have gotten off 2 moves regardless, but at least with a superpower, Togekiss still gets less farm. Metagross coming back in, gonna throw a charge move, definitely have to shield. Hopefully it's not an ancient power where they could potentially get the boost. Is the ancient power, no boost, just needs to commit to the Bullet Punch down before the Togekiss can charm down, and just in time, the Metagross, with a little smidgen of health, is able to hold on and win in those circumstances. Bad lead, Metagross on Swampert, safe swaps into Dragonite, gets Dragonite on the Metagross matchup. Not a great matchup for the Dragonite here, but could potentially be played out of at the cost of shield advantage. Decides to let that Meteor Match come through instead. Gonna go for Smudgy's going for their own shield advantage. Gets the first shield from the Metagross. Certainly the opponent allows this second superpower to come through. because it's debuffed. So at least leaves this situation with shields, but now has to be weary because the Metagross left with energy. So Smudgy comes in with their own Metagross, potentially going for a bullet punch farm down. The opponent's Metagross is getting off a charge move, ends up being the EQ. Definitely wants to go for the bullet punch farm down. Opponent recognizes that, so pivots into Swampert and is not expecting Community Day moved Chestnaught to completely wall the Swampert. Was that enough mud shots for a Sludge Wave? I'm not sure because I was not counting. Battles are sped up. Probably didn't want to shield there. Swamperts in this meta are most likely going to want to run EQ just because of heavier damage. And the only thing you'd really need, Sludge Wave. Oh, no, actually, no, you want Sludge Wave in this meta because of the Gyarados, the Dragonite. I take that all back, actually. You definitely want Sludge Wave. So that was a fair shield if that was enough damage. Either way, ended up getting baited. Opponent comes in with a Metagross, but this Chestnaught has a bajillion energy, throws a superpower. Opponent is down to their final shield and their final Mon, being Snorlax. Smudgy then swaps and pivots out with a bunch of energy on their Chestnaught and clears the debuffs because of that swap. Opponent lets a Meteor Mash through from Smudgy's Metagross, going for another one, should get the final shield if the opponent decides they want to try and commit to this matchup. The opponent was trying to get as much farm as possible before getting bullet punched down, going to throw a body slam. Can they lick down before getting bullet punched down? Just barely, but the Chestnaught definitely has the energy to win CM, to throw a charge move, and because of Chestnaught going to have a higher attack than Snorlax, they're going to win CMP and win out that match. I'm actually thoroughly enjoying watching these battles with Chestnaught in this meta, and it looks like it has a lot more play in MLPC than I think a lot of people would have expected. And these are some legit battles. They're having a 2400 elo, completely respectable elo to be in, and they've been some very close matches. It's not like Chestnaught is in every potential positive situation. Now the opponent comes in and matches his Chestnaught with a Mamoswine. I wonder if in some of these situations we want to throw Frenzy Plant just to not debuff ourselves, especially on the first move. Throw a Frenzy Plant, potentially build the 2 superpowers after, but is able to get to the 3rd superpower. The only difference here would have been this would have been single debuffed instead of double debuffed, and that may have done enough damage to still take out the Mamoswine. But regardless, Smudgy's in a pretty good spot. Gonna have to shield a move from the Mamoswine. Gotta watch out for, its new charge move, high horsepower. Goes for the farm down, has shield advantage. Gyarados comes in with Dragon Breath, a little bit less scary for the Metagross matchup, especially with the shield advantage. Then swaps in the Dragonite after doing a good chunk of the Gyarados remaining health. Opponent's last Pokemon is a Snorlax, and that is GG's. Dragonite was going to sweep the remaining situation. But yo, let me know your thoughts on the battles. I highly recommend you get out there, you get yourself some Chestnaught with Community Day move, Frenzy Plant in Great League, Ultra League, and Master League. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all in the next video. Breesh!